Do your neck and shoulders feel a little tight when you're doing overhead Pilates exercises? Or maybe they just you don't even try them because they feel unsafe. I completely understand. A lot of times with our neck or shoulders bothers or even our back in overhead exercises, not because of the exercise itself, but because of how we're set up and built up to do it. So we're going to talk about how to do overhead exercises in a way that protects your neck so you can feel stronger and longer and then most importantly, safer.
Welcome to OnlinePilatesClasses.com, the most supportive Pilates-loving community across the globe. Enjoy new weekly classes from our amazing teachers. Download the OnlinePilatesClasses.com app today.
Hi, I'm Lesley Logan, co-founder of OnlinePilatesClasses.com, and I started doing Pilates in 2005, teaching in 2008. And what I can tell you is that the overhead exercises that I learned as a student, because of my hypermobile body, I could actually look like I could do all of them, but they definitely scared me. In fact, some of them just felt like they were like in my throat and in my the bones of my neck. It didn't feel very good. When I started to learn how to teach in 2008, I realized, oh, I wasn't really set up correctly, and because of my hypermobility, I could look like I was doing it well and I could trick people. If you are a tighter body, the opposite experience can happen, which is where you just feel like you can't even get there. And so it can be frustrating. And then you will yourself over, and then we go too far because if we're tight in areas, then we can't balance on them. So I want to discuss with you exercises that are jackknife, rollover, and even some of the high bicycle here on the mat, where also all these things apply to anything you would do overhead on a reformer, Cadillac, etc. Because first, ideally, you should always learn overhead exercises on a non-moving platform, which is the mat. So if the first experience you have going upside down is on a moving platform with springs, that is actually a little scary, a little unsafe. So all the things I'm going to tell you here, apply them at home and take them to the reformer class you're going to. So why do overhead exercises bother the neck or can bother the neck? Because they shouldn't at all. In fact, you shouldn't even feel your neck. Typically, though, it's because of tight shoulders. Also, most of the time, the body center isn't activated. And so then the whole weight of the body is like coming down onto the neck and shoulders. And other times, people are just looking in the wrong place. And so that actually causes the neck to flatten out. And then you don't have any support from the actual way the neck is supposed to work. All that weight comes down there. And really, another big reason is because most people go too far and they don't actually know where to stand. And so then the neck takes all of the weight of the body into it. It's not meant to do that. That's not how the exercise is supposed to be done. And so we want to make sure when we're doing overhead exercises, one, that we're ready. We're going to talk about how to know if you're ready, that the body is ready. We're going to talk about the things you need to be thinking about in your setups. And most importantly, that you are not looking around when you're doing overhead exercises. Do not do that. If you don't know how it goes, you watch. And another thing that can actually help you be able to do overhead exercises is strengthening your arms and improving your posture, because that is going to help you stack everything up when it's upside down. So check out this video over here. So the real problem really does start before the movement. So assuming you are ready to do overhead exercises, the setup really does matter, right? And if you don't have a mat like mine, I will show you the options of what you could be doing to set yourself up for success. But if you try to move around while you're actually doing the exercise, meaning you get upside down and then you shift yourself, that is where strain and weight into the neck can occur, right? So let's talk about, we'll just use jackknife as the exercise for overhead practices today. And the reality is because you should do a good jackknife to be able to do any overhead work. So if you have a mat like mine, your hands are into your handles. And what I tend to see people do is they will actually pull on the handles to go overhead, and then they get up there and then they want to push because they pulled too much, right? So you actually only want to push when you go upside down. The next thing I will see, and I'll demonstrate in a second, I'm not going to demonstrate the bad thing because that's not good for me. The next thing I will see is people will look down when their body comes overhead because they want to see what their body is doing. That is going to, you can see that flattens my neck towards the mat. You want to make sure you keep the curve, that you're looking straight up. And that is really, really important. And then the next thing that tends to happen is people want to look around to see if they're doing what everyone else is doing. As I mentioned before, that is a big no. Do not do that. Now, if you don't have handles like mine and your arms are down by your side, the problem here is that your shoulders, if they're tight, are going to round forward. See how my shoulders want to be forward versus on the mat, right? So you have to have the mobility to get them on the mat and then the strength to leave them there. And the arms this narrow can be very, very difficult for people. So you want the arms onto the side, or, which obviously for me on a high mat is an option, Or if I have a mat that's like a yoga mat or a fitness mat, I can grab the sides and pull apart. That's going to give my shoulders width because you need width to go over. So now when I go over, if I keep the reach happening, or you are keeping the press down and your shoulders are wide and your head's in place, then when you go overhead, you should be able to stop on the widest part of your shoulders. If I were to go further or let my legs drop down, that my legs dropping down right there, my center stopped working. So now, even though I'm on the right part of my shoulders, the weight is already feeling like it's coming into my back, and that's not going to feel good. So I have to keep my center engaged to hold on to it. That way I can roll down. And again, I don't get to watch with my eyes as my legs go down. I have to watch the ceiling to keep that tripod we're standing on. All right. So we need to get into a checklist of things you need to think about, because this is the no fling zone. When we are overhead work, we are not flinging, right? We are in controlled momentum. All right. So as I showed before, you want to make sure that you're really getting into the position correctly and our arms are reaching down and shoulders reaching wide. And that's going to really help you out. We're going to go into how the spine works in a second, but if you are interested in how Pilates exercises layer on each other, like what makes sure that we're ready for overhead exercises, it would be the spine shapes that we're doing. So Jackknife that I just showed you is a flexion, right? It's a flexion over and it's a flexion up. I didn't do that second part, but it's still a long round shape. There are 5 spine shapes. I want you to check out the video on the 5 spine shapes, because if you struggle with any of these spine shapes and they are in your overhead exercises you're trying to do, guess what? If you can't do it in a different plane of motion that's easier with gravity, going upside down is not going to work. Okay, so let's go into just a few checklist things that I like to think about, I look with on people. So when you're lying down and you are going to do jackknife or rollover, right? Because the legs ideally start from down. You want to make sure, starting from your hips and your pelvis, that you're not arching, like the legs aren't pulling your pelvis this way, so your lower back is arching off the mat. We don't want that. But we also don't want us bearing down so much that we lose the length in our legs. So you have to figure out a way, how does my front body take up space so that my back body is connected to the mat? The next thing is, if you struggle with an arm back connection, meaning your shoulders are constantly wanting to do a lot of the work, your low ribs here, the low ribs and right here, you can see it, they want to come off the mat, or you look like a roasted chicken with that rib flare. It's going to make it really difficult to do overhead exercises, because now we have to take this from the up to pull it to the down. But I don't want you to go, oh, I need to knit my frontal ribs together. Nope. Again, we have to see, how does either my arms up here or down by my side allow me to kind of widen my shoulder blades so that I have a lot of width to stand on, and then my upper abs can engage. Because what I don't want you to go knit your shoulders, knit your frontal ribs together, and now my shoulder heads are forward. Now I have nothing to stand on. So we got to get that going nice and wide. And then your neck, again, it's tempting to look at what's coming at you. You want to be looking at your ceiling. If you can get, whether your arms up or down, nice wide shoulders, a long neck, and a connection to the mat from your tailbone to the crown of your head, taking the legs overhead is going to be totally possible someday for you. If you have to start in a fling moment, meaning arched, and then you press it down to fling over, it's going to be really hard to control that momentum to get it and keep it out of your neck. All right, so now that you have your checklist, now you have your things to think about, how do you actually do the movement without the neck strain? It's a great question. I'm often asked if they should move slowly, right? Or I actually see people going too slow in overhead exercises. The actual reality is, the slower you go, the more likely you're going to create tension. Somehow, somewhere, people confused slow and controlled. They are not the same thing. They are not the definition of anything, right? You can move slowly out of control. Have you ever watched a car accident in slow-mo? Like, you can move slowly and be out of control. So we definitely want to be in control. And one of the best ways you can tell if you are in control is you should be moving with your breath, not holding your breath. And you might even be able to talk, right? Like, that's going to be really helpful. So I'm going to show you with the jackknife, right? If I'm set up here, jackknife actually has a rhythm. It actually goes over and up very fast, and then it rolls down slowly. But the reality is, it rolls down controlled, and you juice it out. That's a better word. So we're going to go over, up, and you can hear, like, I can talk to you. I'm breathing, I'm exhaling, and I'm juicing this part out. And then the best thing I could do is not throw my legs down, but control them down so they're ready for the next one, right? But the reality is the most important thing you can do is learn how to land on the widest part of your shoulders. Where do you learn that? Rolling like a ball. Your rolling like a ball exercise is your first inversion. It's your first overhead exercise. And if you can balance on the widest part of your shoulders in rolling like a ball for 2 seconds, which is not the exercise, rolling like a ball just rolls back and rolls up. But if you can actually go, let me see if I can do that for 2 seconds on the widest part of your shoulders, you will be able to do so many overhead exercises. But if in rolling like a ball, you roll too far back, you fling your head around, you are not ready, or if you don't roll back far enough, right? You're tight, you can't get there, or someone told you you have to roll back to the tips of your shoulder blades. That is not ideal. In rolling like a ball, you want to roll back to the widest part of your shoulder and come back up, because in every overhead exercise, high scissors included, I am standing on the widest part of my shoulders and the back of my head with space behind my neck. Moving too slowly is one of the number one ways that you can create neck tension, and that is a very common mistake. Some other common mistakes are going to be actually running your shoulders forward, arching your back, going too far, holding your breath, dropping your chin as everything goes overhead, going too fast to control it, and most importantly, just not being ready. These overhead exercises are amazing when you're ready. And the reality is many of you wouldn't even know these exist had you gone to Joe's studio first. You know them now because every class is all level. So then you try to do it. But the best thing to do is be ready. So if we know we don't want to feel because maybe we felt that, how do we know we're in the right place? How does we know it feels good to be supported? So it actually should feel like the exercise is not only possible, but even a little bit harder, because actually the whole body is going to be working, right? For me to do Jackknife well, we didn't even talk about how much my legs are squeezing together, how much my lower back is reaching long, all that stuff. So truly great support in overhead exercise. You should be able to breathe without issues. You should feel like you could do at least 3 of them, and you should feel really strong across your upper back. Like the upper back should feel so ready to do this, while the rest of the body is not collapsing. It should feel like it's an extension of what the upper back is doing. So the thing that I find really fun about truly advancing your Pilates practice is everything feels harder and more possible. And if that's what you're feeling in the exercise, you're probably in a really good support system. The other way to know that you're truly supported is you don't actually feel it overworking in any one area. In fact, that's how you know you're doing all Pilates correctly. Nothing is overworking or underworking at any given time. So you shouldn't feel like, whoa, my arms are working so hard and you don't even remember you have legs. It should feel like everything is working together in unison with your breath. So what are some modifications if your neck is sensitive or you're not able to do overhead exercises yet? Well, I will tell you that while a lot of teachers out there might give different modifications of just making the exercise smaller or changing the exercise so you can do some version of it, my teacher Jay Grimes, who's with Joe Pilates, said there was no modifications. You either did the exercise or you didn't do the exercise, but you can layer. So for example, if Jackknife, meaning you cannot go overhead, is not possible, well, then what parts of Jackknife are possible? Maybe the legs going up and down. That would be a layer, and that's something you could do to get yourself ready if overhead exercises are ever possible. So if you were in a group class with me, you would probably just repeat double straight leg stretch, because this exercise is just Jackknife on your back, right? It's not going all the way overhead, but I am doing the same flexion of the spine. If you could not do it with your head and chest up, you could obviously put your head and chest down, put your hands underneath it, but you would be replacing that exercise when you're doing an overhead exercise. So finding a layer. Rollover. You cannot do rollover. Guess what you can repeat? Roll up. It comes right before it. You can actually do single leg circles in that place, right? Corkscrew. You cannot roll up under the shoulders. You can do corkscrew with the hips down. So you find the layer that actually helps you, because too often people make modifications to exercises that do not ever allow you to get to doing the exercise. And even if you're someone who has something going on with your neck, you have fusions, you have stenosis, and overhead is never an option, I'm still not giving you a modification that will never get you there. I want to make sure that the purpose and the point of the exercise is always in your practice, because that is the goal. If you're in a private session, you should just be skipping the overhead exercises so you have more time to work on things that your body can do that's going to strengthen you to get there. So always find a layer that works for you, replace it with another exercise, but absolutely do not attempt something overhead that if you have anything going with your neck, it is not worth it. There's so many other exercises to do. If you want to deep dive even further on overhead exercises and why they're so difficult, check out this video we did over here on why overhead exercises are so difficult. Something really simple that I want you to keep in mind when it comes to going overhead or trying to advance your Pilates practice is that it is a Pilates practice. It's not a perfect. So it's not about racing to get to these overhead advanced exercises. It's about building yourself up and being in process. My teacher Jay would say practice does not make perfect, it makes a habit. So making sure that you're actually getting deeper within these exercises and getting and juicing more out of them so that you can go into overhead exercises. Because if you're truly ready for overhead exercises, they are difficult and they are a challenge, but they are not impossible and they should never hurt. And so, if you would like to dive deeper into the topics of upside down exercise and really readying your body, we have two amazing workshops on OPC for you. One is my bottoms up workshop. It is all these different props and tools that you can use to strengthen your upper back to get those hips upside down. It's quite fun. We do a lot of it on the mat first. And then at the end, there's a couple different pieces of equipment plus a Q&A. Watch that. Or if you heard me talk about this arm back connection, those shoulders staying out of the ears, that is another amazing workshop. I do this one often in person when we're on tour, so you can always check that out. We also have it filmed on onlinepilatesclasses.com, so check out those workshops here. Finally, thank you so much for watching these videos and your amazing, great questions that you put in the comments. I truly, truly appreciate it. Thank you for subscribing to this channel. If you want feedback on the upside down exercise you're doing, the overhead work that you're doing, because it is bothering some part of your body, if you are an OPC member, you can actually film yourself do the exercise and submit it to the community, and I will watch it. If you don't want anyone else to see it, you can check a box and make sure that it happens, but I will be the only one providing the feedback. Everyone else will get to learn from you as well in a nice and inspired way. So go to onlinepilatesclasses.com/YouTube to join us. It's an incredible community, and you do get that personalized feedback with the ability to do Pilates at times that work best for you. And that's what all of our new workouts are happening anyways. And thank you so very much. Any questions you ask in the comments below, I will answer on our Sunday lives. Have an amazing day.